Hey everyone, we're back for an update on the conquest video from yesterday. So today I've been going through the numbers, how many attempts you're going to need to do for each feat, how much conquest energy you're going to need to get through all of the feats, and a few things like that. So hopefully this is going to be beneficial to you guys. So as we talked about yesterday, Sector 1 has these 6 feats. So the attack out of turn 100 times, score 200 crits, gain advantage 40 times, defeat 30 units with Phoenix squadron units, win 14 battles with bounty hunters, and attempt to inflict potency down 40 times. So I had a look at an idea that someone gave me as feedback to my video yesterday, which is that you can actually do the out of turn attacks on a slightly slower grind than the teams we were looking at, but by using bounty hunters, because Bosk has a mass attack, and you only really need to use Bosk because you have 14 battles in which you can grind out this 100 attack out of turn feat, but Grief also being in the team can speed things up. While looking into the bounty hunters, I also noticed that Cad Bane's leadership actually has that when a bounty hunter inflicts a debuff, they gain advantage. So you can actually knock off the attack out of turn, the crits, the advantage, and the bounty hunter feat, all with a bounty hunter team. But obviously you have to do 14 battles. But the others you can complete with, you're looking at probably getting 18 attacks out of turn per battle by using Bosk's first special twice. Probably somewhere in the region of 15 to 20 crits per battle, potentially many more. Possibly 10 or more advantage. And if you're finding that the Cad Bane leadership isn't great, once you've knocked off that advantage feat, you can switch to Bosk or Django leadership. So yeah, the main things here is that the Cad Bane leadership at your service, Bosk's hunting party first special, and if you have access to Grief, his bring them in cold special. So Calicori, the team we were looking at yesterday for the Phoenix kills, I think the cheapest way is still to have something like a Gear 12 Ezra or a Gear 12 Sabine, whichever you have the highest of the two, and then build them around this core support team here, like the trio of Hermit Yoda, Watt, C3PO, and then Mon Mothma, or any other leader that's not going to do much damage in that slot can help. If you don't have a Cad Bane built for the Bounty Hunter feat, but you want to still work on the advantage feat and you can work on the Phoenix feat, you could replace Mon Mothma with, say, Phasma in the leadership position. Phasma's first special, that's going to give you 5 advantage every turn. So Mon Mothma's replaceable with that if you don't have Cad Bane. Ideally, we're trying to find a Night Sister team somewhere in Sector 1 so we can try to rattle this feat off on one node. That's going to be our best case scenario. Otherwise, you're going to be looking at probably 5 nodes to get this done. Then we have incapacitating strikes. So the whole basis of this is potency down. There's only 2 units in the game that inflict potency down, and that's young Lando and Grandmaster Yoda, as we can see from Grandmaster Yoda's basic. As alluded to yesterday, you just build a team around giving Yoda the most amount of attacks. So the most amount of assists onto Yoda. So all this team does is call Yoda to assist all the time. Luke's leadership special, Luke's first special, Shakti's second special, Hoda's first special, Bastela's first special. Again, ideally, we would be looking for a Night Sister team here. Yes, this is a recurring theme, but the Night Sister teams with Zombie do make it a lot easier to grind out these sorts of feats. Otherwise, you're probably still only looking at 2 to 3 fights to get it done with this sort of setup. Other leaders that can work that might be a bit slower would be Jedi Knight Revan, but really your best bet is Jedi Master Luke. So if we look at the breakdown of Sector 1, I think there's 2 realistic approaches. So we can do all of the feats, and I think in our best case scenario, we're going to look at 16 fights. And the worst case scenario, and this is assuming you don't have any losses, of course. And your worst case scenario is 22 fights. If we don't have a Phoenix squad or a Phoenix character capable of carrying us for the Kalikori feat, we could potentially drop that feat completely. Then we'd be looking at a best case scenario of around 15 fights and a worst case scenario of about 18 fights. So Sector 2, here we have the 10 battles with no supports, 10 battles with 5 attackers, grant 100 buffs, 14 battles with Night Sisters, defeat 40 enemies with Rebel Fighters, and attempt to inflict blind 40 times. The single best team for this is CLS, Han, Chewie, and 3PO and Chewie. Then any dark side attacking unit. It doesn't matter if it's a Gear 1 attacking unit, to be honest, because this is going to let you double dip into the bring balance feat, and that's going to help you rattle off that global feat or make strong progress into it. So as this team has no supports and only attackers, we're going to get to knock off the unsupportive and best defense feats, both requiring 10 nodes, and we get to hit them both at the same time. Blinding Assault, so that's where we need to inflict 40 blinds. So that's from Chupio's Shining Distraction special. We should be able to get between 4 and 10 blinds per fight. It really depends how that's going to line up because of the if anyone's dead before he uses his special, if he gets to use it twice, etc, etc. So that's going to take us 4 to 10 battles, but that's very acceptable as we're in a 10 battle window anyway. And super support, every time Han uses his second special, Never Tell Me the Odds, we're getting 10 buffs, 2 for every person that's alive. If he gets to use that once a fight, that's fine. We also get some buffs from maybe like Luke using his stance switch, Chupio using his buff here, his Shining Distraction. That's going to give us advantage as well. So we can potentially be looking at 15 to 20 buffs per battle here towards 100. So we're looking at 5 to 7 battles to knock this off completely. The grind feat of this one, all Night Sisters, so that's 14 fights. There's no easy way around this. You either have good Night Sisters or Night Sisters capable of doing this, or you don't. Then we have Striking Back. This is Mon Mothma. Not everyone's going to have a great Mon Mothma team, but if you've been working towards Jedi Master Luke, or you have Jedi Master Luke, you should have, or will have Mon Mothma, Lando, Wedge, and Biggs. Then you'd only need one more of the Rebel Fighters, or you could bolt in something like Wat Tambor here as a support. If you can bolt in Wat, and you can still make it work with the other 4 characters, that's great because you're going to again be double dipping into that bring the balance feat. The broken record here is your best bet to be super efficient is to beat a Night Sister team. Otherwise, it's going to take you 7 to 8 nodes. 40 units, yeah, 7 to 8 nodes depending on the, like, if you find a bugs team, maybe you can do it in less, or another team with revives or self revives, like a Gideon team. Maybe you can shave that down a bit, but I think realistically you're looking at 7 to 8 there. So if we break this down, if you do all of the feats, this is a tough sector. Like, you're looking at 25 fights at your best case, 32 fights in your worst case. If you don't have the rebel fighters that are capable of doing this, then you're looking at a best and worst case of 24 fights, because you just can't get it below 14 Night Sisters, and you can't get it below 10 all attackers, no supports. Sector 3. So here we need to inflict stun 100 times, gain stealth 40 times, gain frenzy 20 times, defeat 40 units with Old Republic units, attempt to inflict evasion down 40 times, and win 14 battles with a full Empire team. So we can look at targeting 3 feats with one team here. We have stunning tactics for the stuns, shadow dealings for the stealth, and clumsy for the evasion down. So we need the full CLS team here. CLS, Han, Chewie, Chewpio, and R2. We have a stun versus characters with defense down, I want to say. Yeah, stun versus characters with defense down on CLS's basic. Stun from Han's pre-turn and special 1. Stun from R2-D2's basic. We have evasion down from Chewpio's basic, and we have stealth from R2-D2's basic. If we assume that this team is going to kill units pretty quickly, because it's CLS, that's what they do, you're only likely to get to use R2-D2's first special once. So you're only likely to get 4 of those per battle. So that's going to take you 5 battles. I think it's realistic that you can attempt stuns 8 times. Between Han having 2 stun skills, Chewie having a stun, R2-D2's basic stun, CLS circumstantially applying stun, I think getting 8 of these is very realistic. And I think I've lowballed the Chewpio's evasion down to 8 a battle, because every time anyone uses an ability, Chewpio's going to assist, and you're going to get one of those evasion down attempts. But so I think you can rattle all of this off in 5. If by some reason you get the stunning attacks or the clumsy done faster, there's maybe something we can do with another team to potentially make this more efficient. Because we need to do Relentless Fury, which is gain Fury 20 times. If you still need to rattle off some of your stealths, you can, and you have an Aura Sing lead, you can use an Aura Sing lead for some bounty hunters here. Dengar also works with, and Grief also work for passive and start of battle stealths. Sam also has a stealth trigger. I think it's on her special 1, but I'm not 100% sure. You also have, so I think you also have some stuns in this team. I would need to double check. But the core thing we're looking at doing here is having Bosk and Biston on the same team. They both can use their frenzy ability. Hopefully they can both use their frenzy ability twice during the fight. If you can get this team to use Biston and Bosk's frenzy twice during a fight, you're going to be able to clear this in, I think you can actually clear this in, 5 battles. I think that's pretty good. Maybe things line up, you can eke the fight out a little longer if you're in control of it. Maybe you can get a few more, so maybe you can actually get this down to 4 or 3, but I think a realistic estimation would be 5 battles to do this. Then we have the All Old Republic. This is kills with Old Republic toons only. You need, I think it's 40, so it's 40. Should have known that by the 7 and 8 here. So Revan is going to be your key damage dealer. You're building a team around Jedi Knight Revan. Hermit Yoda to give him plus 100% offense, Jolie to cool assist, Bastila to cool assist, then either mission or C-3PO. If your mission's geared, that's some extra damage. It's going to make your life a bit easier. If not, you should have a C-3PO who's pretty geared. Adds the stats that help some damage because he adds some defense penetration. Also, it's a bit more stealth just to take a bit of the pressure off the other teams needing to hit the 100. Night Sisters make this easy, but otherwise you're going to have to grind it out in 7 to 8 teams probably. And then we have All Empire. Now this is the team you have to grind 14 fights with, but this team is really going to help you finish off those stuns and stealths. Palpatine, special 1, try to inflict 5 stuns. Thrawn, stun on special if he's targeting someone who has ability block. Piet, 1 stealth on special 1. But this team's super powerful, so easily get the 14 nodes done comfortably, and will help you just bolster the numbers to finish off the other feats. I don't really think there's any feats in this node, in this sector you can skip. So our best case really we're looking at here is 25 fights on the low end, 32 fights on the high end. Sector 4. You need to evade at least 100 attacks in battles you win 10 battles with no attackers, inflict stagger 60 times, defeat 50 units with Mandalorians, win 14 battles with smugglers, and gain evasion up 20 times. This is tough because a lot of people that I've had feedback from are saying, oh, the smuggler feat's going to be a problem. Like, I don't have good smugglers apart from Han and Chewie, or Han, Chewie, and Nest. And yeah, I can understand that. This does seem like a tough feat, but I think you need to try this if you have Han, Chewie, Nest, and just veteran smuggler Han. I think you need to try this because you don't need Kira at any gear. Like if you get her at the gear where you can max her leadership, that should be good enough because Han, Chewie, and Nest are going to do a lot of your heavy lifting. You've got to do 14 battles anyway, so you're easily going to get through your evasion up feat. You're easily going to get through your stagger feat with the veteran Han basic. He only needs to use 4 to 5 basics versus a target who's debuffed already in each fight, and you're going to get there. If you don't have the Nest and the Han geared, so you only have Han and Chewie geared, I can understand skipping this feat. But if you just have these 4 at gear 13, I really think you should go for it. So, fleet-footed, which is the evasion, and disarmed, which is no attackers. There's 2 leadership options here, Jedi Master Luke or Old Ben. I think if your team's strong enough that they're not going to get killed, Old Ben is your best bet because you're just going to get a few extra evasions per battle to make it a bit easier. But depending on your data discs and your characters, you just might need Jedi Master Luke because he's that much more powerful a character, and he's just going to facilitate your team actually closing out the nodes that much more reliably. But the core engine of this team is Grandmaster Yoda's battle meditation. But also Hermit Yoda's passive 100% evasion while stealth, and General Kenobi's 65% chance to gain foresight. All of these little things combined are just going to help you to get a few more foresights, get a few more evasions. So I would hope you'd be looking at being able to knock this off in 10 nodes, which would be great because that'll line up perfectly with your disarmed. So then we have tradition of war. There's two ways of approaching this. If you're not going for the smuggler feat, I think you need to use Han Solo in this team. So in this team, you can complete the evasion up feat. So that's the only reason I've included Han here. Han may cause a problem because he may get some kills that you don't want him to, but that's why Han's here. Other than that, we're looking at a Mandalorian team. Bo-Katan or Django lead. I think Bo-Katan's a better lead just because of the extra assists and how the extra assists line up with Bo-Katan's Zeta Unique, which provides a bit more sustain to your team in this potentially pretty tough sector. If you didn't go for smugglers, the smuggler feat, or you didn't finish the stagger feat when you were doing your smugglers, you have the option here that Django inflicts stagger on his first special, and Sabine inflicts stagger to all enemies on her demolish special. So you can't. So if you're not going to go for the smuggler feat, which I can understand, you are going to want to really consider using Sabine here. She's only going to need to take one turn per fight you do to knock off five staggers, and then a sixth, plus however many times Django gets to use his shrapnel blast in the fight to get the staggers done. Now, if you're just looking for the tradition of war, again, if there's just a Night Sister team, you can potentially get this done in one. Otherwise, I think for both of these feats, you're probably looking at 9 or 10 nodes. Now, that is significantly better than doing the smuggler feat as well, because obviously the smuggler feat is 14. So maybe there's a trade-off. Maybe you have the smugglers and you don't have the Mandalorians, and you can trade off dropping tradition of war for doing the veteran feat. But I think you're going to have to do one or the other realistically. So if we're doing all of the feats, we're looking at 25 fights in the best case, or 34 fights in the worst case. If we're not doing the smuggler feat, and now this is a little based on not knowing exactly how many nodes there are in the sector, this could be that you could get away with 11 fights at the minimum in this sector, but probably the worst case is around 20. So our last sector, sector 5. We need to inflict daze 40 times. We need to inflict death mark 10 times. We need to defeat 100 enemies. We need to defeat 40 units with Bad Batch. We need to win 14 battles with Geos, and we need to win at least 20 battles without losing a unit. This is the tough one. I think this is the hardest one for everyone. Well, everyone who doesn't have Bad Batch. Most people don't have Bad Batch. And most people are looking at this feat and going, I can never get it done. Now, I don't want to say that Gear 11 Bad Batch that are well modded with an appropriate fifth are going to have an easy time. I honestly don't know. I paired them with Jedi Master Kenobi in the last Conquest at Gear 8 and had no problems in Sector 1 to 3. Now, I don't know how much Kenobi carried that. I don't know how much the data discs carried that. And I don't know how much steeper things would be in 4 or 5 for that gear level. But I think if you have Gear 11 Bad Batch already, I think you should try to mod them as well as you can for Sector 5 and try it on one of the matchups where they're relatively favoured and see how it goes. So something like a Geo matchup or a CLS without Han matchup or a GG matchup just to see how it goes. If it goes badly, fine. If you have Gear 11 Bad Batch though, and you have Kenobi, and I'm going to assume you have gas because most people have gas at this point. I think there's something you can do here with Kenobi leading gas plus Wrecker, Tech, and Echo. Now you can have a super fast Kenobi as most people do if they have him. You can have a Wrecker with health sets, 4 prop primaries, and plus 0 speed secondaries. You can get your Kenobi to give him damage immunity. If your speeds clock well, it's plausible that Kenobi comes back around to his damage immunity before Wrecker finishes his damage immunity up. So you could potentially have a completely invincible Wrecker. Your gas is going to help facilitate your day's feats. Also, if you can find, back to the Night Sister thing, if you can find a Night Sister node, General Kenobi, his basic, once you get it down to zombie +1, his basic is just going to decimate that zombie's hit points down to the point where that zombie has 1 hit point. And then any of these low geared Bad Batch can just ping off that Night Sister. So, as I say, I don't want to say that Gear 11, Bad Batch plus Rex or Shaq are going to get it done in this sector. If you have them, it's worth a try. Gear 13, Relic 5s, obviously they're going to walk through this, but everyone knows that. But maybe Gear 11 can do something, but it's probably worth trying. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'll be trying it. I have some Gear 11s or some Gear 10s, so I'll be trying to mix some stuff up and seeing if I can find something that works there too. And again, I think the Kenobi gas +3 that could work. That's going to be a bit harder to achieve the Bad Batch kills if you can't find a Night Sister node. So there's a lot of ifs and buts about this Bad Batch feat that might make you want to skip it, and I can completely understand skipping this one. So mark for death, and if you're skipping the Bad Batch feats, then the rest of the Reeling Blow, which is your day's feats. So your Imperial Troopers are going to be fantastic here. You should be able to get 2 to 3 death marks per fight. You should be able to get between Death Troopers Basic, Piet's AoE. I think you could potentially look at 8, maybe more daisies per battle. So I think you can knock off these 2 feats in 5 battles. You obviously then have the Geos needing 14 battles. This again could be a tough one. On my primary count, I have a Relic 4 or Relic 5 GBA, Relic 5 Spy, then 3 Gear 12s. And I'm concerned that I might have to skip. And I think this one's really going to depend on data discs or potentially good nodes for Geos. But this is a tough one. This and the Bad Batch are really tough. So, but that'll leave us with the global feats of gain offense up 500 times. I think that's going to be a gimme between using some Imperial Troopers, using Shaq T, Like there's a lot of things that can give you offense up. Defeat 500 enemies is going to come naturally. Win 20 battles without tanks is going to come naturally. Win 20 battles with Darth Maul and Savage Oppress. So there's going to be some teams where you can just bolt in Darth Maul and Savage. So let me see if I can just quickly scroll back and find one. Oh, it's no, because then you have to have another attacker, so that one doesn't quite work. It's possible that in this Old Republic feat, if you take Revan, Hermit Yoda, and Bastila Shan, and they're good enough, you could put in Darth Maul and Savage here. Darth Maul and Savage don't really do that much damage. You might be able to get away with not killing there. That's a good thing you could try it with. And potentially if you're doing like the build around Ezra team here, you could potentially drop the C-3PO and the Mon Mothma, put in Maul lead with Savage, and maybe you could still get it done. So there's certainly some things here. And also this incapacitating strikes. You could drop Shakti and Bastila and just put in Maul and Savage, because I think Luke, Yoda, Hoda are going to easily get that done on their own. So you just got to think about, well, where can I drop a little something here just so I can get Maul and Savage in my team. And then defeat 100 enemies units in Conquest with unaligned Force users. I mean, Rey, Cat, JTR, Fulcrum, SLKR, Kylo, Crew. You can knock this off. You can probably look at some of the teams I've done and go, well, actually, it's more efficient if I do the last few of this with just First Order or similar, like the no supports, only attackers. You could sub out the rebels for SLKR, SLKR and the 4 attackers, and SLKR is going to get a lot of this work done just there. Or anywhere where you need a 5th, where you want to load in an SLKR array or something, you can easily knock these out. So I've made some assumptions in my energy cost analysis. So I saw something about the nodes now costing 20 energy, and I think it was in Sector 5. So I don't know if all nodes now cost 20 energy or if there's a progressive cost as the nodes go up. So I've made the worst case scenario, the worst case assumption, which is that it's 20 energy per attempt. I've made the assumption that energy refreshes at the same rate. I've used the information that we've seen to date, which is that you can give up 35 points in feats to still get the best box. I have little to no boss node or feat information that's 100% concrete, so I haven't included anything about bosses, so some of the numbers will change once we know exactly how it's going to work with the bosses, the mini bosses, etc., and how we can tie those in to the other feats. And I've made some assumption that we're doing logical zone progression. So what I mean by logical zone progression is that you're not burning a team down to 0 stamina. You're evenly distributing. So if you do, say, Sector 1 and you do 5 of your Night Sister fights, then you use some other teams, you get into Sector 2. Now in Sector 2 you need to use CLS. Well, you can use CLS on that day, and then maybe you get into Sector 3 and you're like, well, I haven't finished my CLS in Sector 2 yet, and I haven't finished my Night Sisters in Sector 1, but my Night Sisters and my CLS have progressed their energy, so I'll use CLS in Sector 3, Night Sisters in Sector 1, and I'll just be progressing 2 zones at this, well, 2 sets of feats at the same time, but also progressing my way through the map. So the assumption on energy is that you start at 144 because it's always a cap. We naturally regenerate 1 energy per 12 minutes. It lasts for 2 weeks, so you get a total of 1,824 energy. Well, that's actually 1,823 energy at maximum over the 2 weeks. So if we're doing all the feats in all the zones, you can see here the best and worst case for each zone. It's going to cost us between 2,180 energy and 2,920 energy, which is going to cost us between 3 and 10 refreshes. If we're going to skip the smuggler feat, we now drop our energy down to 1,940 to 2,620. That's going to be between 1 and 7 refreshes, and we're losing 10 off of our maximum 35 feat drop. If we're dropping the bad batch feat, you don't actually gain much because you have to do 20 battles without losing a unit. So you're still capped at doing a minimum of 20 battles. So our energy stays at 1940 to 2520. Well, it just drops slightly for a total of 1 to 6 refreshes, but we're now up to 25 feats dropped. If we're not doing the Smuggler Bad Batch or Phoenix Squad feat, we're now at 1940 to 2440 energy for 1 to 6 refreshes with a 30 feat drop. And then if we're also not doing the Rebel Fighters, we've dropped all of our maximum points here of 35, which means we would have to do all of the boss nodes feats, which in itself could be tricky. Gets us to 1900 energy or 2280 at the most for 1 to 4 refreshes. So I only included these 4 particular feats, as these are the ones I had the feedback on, people saying that I think they're the hardest ones for me to complete. So I wanted to paint an analysis of the impact of not doing each of these feats, how that looks for your energy changes, your total refreshes needed, and your feat drops. So people can make their own sort of decision on which team they can try to work a bit harder on in the conquest, not necessarily gearing, but work a bit harder on making work in conquest to give themselves a bit of an easier time with the boss node feats. Or alternatively, if you're fantastic and you can really get through those boss node feats, and just drop all 4 of these and grind out all of the boss nodes. So hopefully this was helpful to everyone, and I'll make another video once we have some solid, concrete information on the bosses, the sub-bosses, and how all of the boss feats are going to work, if it's applying to the end of sector bosses only, if some apply to the mini bosses, etc., etc. I'll also do some videos for how I'm progressing through the zones, maybe a live stream if people are interested. If you are interested in that, please drop a comment and I'll schedule something in. And as always, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, share this with the community. I'd love to get this video out to as much of the community as possible, because I think there's some people really, really worried that they're not going to be able to get the top box from Conquest anymore. I think people that have got a decentish roster, like, there's a way we can get there, or at least get the most for everyone's personal roster. Also, I've got a Discord server. We're talking a lot of Conquest on there, but we'll talk about everything about the game, like PvP, Fleet Arena, Squad Arena, TW, modding, raiding, everything. I'll put a link to that in the description of the video, so if you feel like joining that and having a chat with guys, that's great. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, and see you for the next video.